Monsieur Anber, good evening.
Greetings back from Montreal, my friend, after 3 weeks on the road.
Yeah, it's true. And no,
4 cities in the UK. Great.
And this time last year, you had to do quarantines on your way back. So thankfully, that's over with. And we have, of course, a regular contributor to the podcast, none other than Iceman John Scully, who is looking like with a very good connection right off the get-go. No finger in the screen as well. So this is a good progress for this evening. Good evening, John.
Yeah, indeed.
How you doing, Scully?
I'm learning the ropes as I go.
Well, look, there's obviously the big fight to get to, the heavyweight championship, or at least part of it, because Russ represents the fighter who has most of the belts in the heavyweight division, being Usyk. But we had Fury Wilder this past weekend. It made news all over social media, not only from boxing fans, but from a lot of casual sports fans who tune in or at least saw the results and the highlights. Going into it, Russ, we talked a little bit about it last week, how much it seemed many people didn't want this third fight. It didn't seem necessary. Wilder had to get into arbitration and derail the Fury-Joshua fight. But after the fact, the fight, of course, was entertaining. It was a slugfest. Some people are saying it's one of the best of all time. I'm not so sure about that. I think that might be a little bit of hyperbole and the moment, people feeling the fight. But ultimately, it was a heck of a bout. Fury now convincingly wins the rivalry, 2 wins out of 3 fights. What's the number one takeaway you have from that evening and the result a few days later? I'll start with you, Scully, or Russ.
No, wait. I want to lead this off, and then I'm going to let Scully speak because I know he has to go. But I just want to start with saying that everybody, from the peanut vendors at T-Mobile Arena, up to the promoters, to the fighters, to every broadcaster who was paid by a network to cover the fight, everybody who made 5 cents on the fight owes a percentage to Mark Breland. Because if Mark Breland allows Deontay Wilder, who showed tremendous heart, we know that we're going to get into that, of how brave he was. If he allows him to show this, the type of heart that he has in that second fight, and let him, quote unquote, go out on his shield in the second fight, there wouldn't have been the 40 million or whatever dollars that eventually was paid out and spent and earned or whatever. We don't know how many pay-per-views came in on that was earned on this fight in the third fight. This day would not have happened. This great fight, this exciting fight, this fight that has people buzzing about in boxing would not have existed had the compassion of Mark Breland not stopped that fight, created the controversy that said, oh no, I was ready to go, I wanted to go on, blah, blah, and made this third fight. Mark Breland is the architect of this third fight happening.
Oh,
I like it. I like it. I mean,
not true.
It's the butterfly effect. You ever see that movie, The Butterfly Effect?
yeah.
Everything that happens causes something else to happen. The circumstances of one thing alter, change, create circumstances of another thing. And Russ is, because it would have, the second fight would have gotten so one-sided, and it's such a brutal beatdown that, nobody would have wanted a rematch. Wilder probably wouldn't have wanted a rematch in reality. But the controversy created an opening that created the third fight. So, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Russ, I agree with you to a point. At the same time, though, do you think that, I don't know how to go with this now, because that was a pretty definitive statement about Breland having it, involved. But what about Wilder now saying that he had a chance to go out on his shield and that he did, and he's happier with that result? But you're saying that he should still, no matter what, now that he got knocked out definitively, he should be thankful that that didn't happen in the second fight.
Well, there's 2 things. There's the pride and there's the business, right? So the pride says, I want to go out on my shield. Well, your pride would have cost you, I don't know how much he got for the fight, $20 million or whatever. I don't know what he got. Would have cost you that much money to have your pride and go out on your shield. So Breland saved you from your pride and earned you an extra, I'm saying 20, I don't know what the exact amount is. If either of you know, feel free to jump in. Saved your pride, but made you $20 million and your team. and everybody around you and everybody who benefited from it, and the managers and the strength and conditioning guys and everybody involved, the TV, the pay-per-view, everybody got a piece of that action because Mark Breland saved you from going out on your shield like you wanted to, but from a business perspective would have cost who knows how many millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. And so it looked like a fight, though, from the get-go, that both men said, look, we know technically what type of fight this could be from the first and second. And this was just two men who had the pride of wanting to knock each other out. Like, we all knew going in that the knockout was most likely going to happen because it kind of, whatever they were talking about leading up to the bout, they delivered in the ring. Like, it wasn't any fake animosity. Really, both men, I think, were tired of each other. Fury wanted to shut Wilder up for good. Wilder wanted to prove that maybe the second fight was an aberration and he could knock Fury out like he had knocked him down in the first fight. So it looked to me like from the get-go, this was not going to be a technical boxing matchup, but this was going to be a slugfest, and it ended up being just that. Like, I don't know, Scully, what's your number one takeaway? Is it that Fury is he even more impressive with this performance that you thought he was going in, or did he kind of cement who you thought he was and that he's always going to have this advantage over Wilder because of his superior technique and resilience?
Yeah, I think it's very clear he's superior. Like, we don't need to see anything, even in the ability, Wilder shows a lot of heart, but the fact is he was deemed unable to continue in the second fight, and he certainly couldn't continue the other night. So when you go head up, man to man, inch for inch, criteria for criteria, he's superior in every way. He's proven that 3 times. So I don't think we need to see it again. I made a joke on Facebook, on Twitter the other day, and I was saying, for the good of boxing, let's have these guys fight every 6 months for the next 3 years. Because every fight, from the beginning to the end, every minute of it in the pre-fight and everything is entertaining. But it's also not healthy for these guys to do this. Wilder is probably not the same man he was 2 years ago because of Tyson Fury. And Tyson Fury might be affected as well. But you can't go through abuse like that. Now, back in the day, you had Joe Frazier, George Foreman, guys 225 banging on you. That was bad enough. Now you got 275-pound behemoths, pounding on you. And Fury's in good shape. I mean, to have a late round knockout as a heavyweight, being that big, is super impressive. I mean, the average guy over 240 pounds couldn't last a minute in a boxing ring, hitting the heavy bag. This guy, world class, he doesn't look it. I mean, it's crazy because he does not look it. He's got a dad body. He's got a body of a 45-year-old father who works at an insurance company, but he, he does. It's crazy. But he, he's got the condition, and he's actually proof that you don't have to have the Holyfield body. You don't have to have the Wilder body to be in superior conditioning. So, and I knew that going in, but, people made such a big deal about Deontay gaining weight, gaining all that muscle. I'm saying for people to say that, it's either hype or they're just not experienced enough to know that it doesn't mean anything. Like and Tyson Fury, if there's any indication that it doesn't mean anything, these fights have proven that.
I think that you raised some very good points in this, John. And let's face it, in 3 fights that they've had, legitimately, Wilder has won 3 rounds.
The rounds that he has knockdowns in?
I'm sorry?
Just the rounds that he scored knockdowns in.
Yeah, and even the other rounds, like even if you say, well, he won the first round in this fight, it was more a case of him coming out with all guns blazing in the first round and doing that jab to the body, the right hand to the body, using him like he was a heavy bag, but only aiming at the body. And Fury just kind of waited, and this is why the important thing, it's not about the shape you're in to go 3 minutes around. It's knowing how to go 3 minutes around, because you can see all kinds of guys. 4 minute was a perfect example, later, as big as he was, he was certainly not body beautiful, but he learned how to go rounds better as an older man and a I'm sorry to say the word, fatter man, later in his career, he could go more rounds than he could when he was a young guy right out of the Olympics, blasting everybody out. So it's how you go those rounds. So I think it's something that the bulking up, I didn't like it to begin with, because knowing Wilder as I do, his upper body strength, I don't care who it is as good and as strong as anybody out there. If there's a weakness, it's in the legs. You know, it's like he's just naturally built that way, that he's got skinny legs. If there's any place he should have bulked up, it should have been in the legs to help him support the weight of Fury, and not the upper body where he's trying to push him off. That's not where the strength comes from. It comes from the legs and being able to move and box. So, you know, I think there's a lot of things that he was, Wilder seemed hell-bent on wanting to impose himself so much that he was exhausted after 3 rounds. He was exhausted. He loaded up on every punch he had when he got knocked down. Everybody, and I mean everybody. I talked to the guys at Top Rank I was sat with Callum Smith, Anthony Crawler, Liam Smith, Eddie Hearn. We were all sat there. Everyone thought it was over when Wilder went down. He looked exhausted. He could barely stand. Like, he got knocked down by missing with a punch that made him turn around, and then got knocked down. You know, that's how exhausted he was. And then he comes back. Fury lost his moment of concentration, walked right to Wilder, and Wilder, with the heart that he had out of desperation, goes a 1-2, boom! And it catches him on the temple. And Scully, you know, that shot, you feel fine, but all of a sudden your legs are doing things that they never did before, right?
Yeah. Your legs become separate than you.
Yeah, correct.
Your legs are telling you, nah, we're gonna sit this one out.
Yeah, but your body is like perfectly clear because you catch the shot in the right place. And so his legs started to do funny things. And that, all of a sudden, that moment of lack of concentration and the power that Wilder had ended up making that, even though Wilder arguably might not have even won a round after that, after knocking Fury down, may not have even won a round after that, it created that excitement that lasted until the 11th round. And every now and then, you know, after he'd be so exhausted, barely able to stand up, boom, he would throw a punch, you know, you'd wonder, oh shit, did it land? You know, is it going to land? And that's what made this fight so exciting.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see Wilder changing his style at this stage of his career, where even if Malik Scott tried to implement technical improvements, as soon as Wilder kind of got hurt or exhaustion set in, he went back to his technical flaws, and you could see defensively not much presence. And also, I thought it was disappointing on the inside. You could tell the subtleties of Fury being better with the boxing skill of knowing how to lean on his body, knowing how to give a little bit of separation with the elbow to kind of give a little bit of distance for his shots. While Wilder on the inside, I didn't see him throw a significant body punch to Fury at all. And that's something that he talked that he was going to do leading up to the bout, but he went back into kind of his head hunting. And again, the heart is there, the power is there. So he'll be a problem for many of the heavyweights, but technically, I think it's going to be very difficult at this stage of his career to see anything different, where his footwork is very ordinary. He fights like a big man with his feet compared to Fury, who seems to be much lighter on his feet. Do you agree?
Go, Scully.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Fury proved technically how superior he is with his foot placement, you know, his maneuvering. I mean, just so many subtle little things that he did that caused Wilder so many problems, and Wilder was reduced. And granted, Wilder could be successful with this. Like late in the fight, Wilder was reduced to just being exhausted. And you knew, though, he was saving it up. Like in his mind, he was going, I'm going to rest for about 10 seconds, and I'm just going to throw as hard as I can. You know, and if he would have knocked a lot of guys dead with some of the punches he was throwing. But that's the difference between levels, world class. You know, Fury is on a different level. That's a fact. There's no more. They don't need to make any more excuses. They don't need to fight again to prove it. He's proven it beyond a shadow of a doubt. He's a more well-rounded professional, and that's the bottom line.
And even the shots he got hit with, the one landed on the temple. You know, he seemed fine for a second. Then his legs went on him. You know, there wasn't another clean shot landed. Even on the second knockdown, it wasn't a clean shot. You know, when the little shot, boom, you know, that rips your head off, right? Like the shot that Berlanga got hit with or something that nearly decapitated him. That wasn't there, right? It was kind of like just a clumsy thing, boom, and he went down again because his legs were still doing the funky. So I think that, he showed that he's not an easy man to hit, even though he's as big as he is. He's very nimble for a big man. I can't say in my years in boxing, I've seen somebody that big, that limber, and that nimble into what he does, and so flexible and soft and moving his body. And, he's so relaxed in there for a big man. You don't usually see that kind of presence, but yet he knew, and it was his objective. And this seemed to be his thing. It was almost like 1, 2, I'm leaning on you. Like he was hell-bent on, I am going to put this mass on you and you're going to have to support it. That was part of his
Wilder
strategy.
wanted to bulk up.
I don't think it made a difference to both.
No, but that's what Wilder was vocal about, saying, I knew he was going to try to lean on me, so I want to resist a little bit more, but it wasn't enough, because he would have been probably better off moving a little bit more.
Right. You know what? Sometimes guys, like you see guys say, yeah, if I move up to heavyweight, I've seen some cruiserweights say they're going to bulk up, get really big. And I say, listen, your advantage is like Roy Jones. Roy Jones is a perfect example. He moved up to heavyweight. And there were people who were saying, yeah, he should get up to 210, 215 so he could deal with Ruiz's size. Roy was 193. He maintained his greatest attributes while he got big enough to support it all. People make a mistake sometimes thinking you're going to bulk up and your body's just going to adjust to that and you're going to be a bigger man. You're going to be naturally like Ike Ibeabuchi or something now. You're not, just because you weigh. Like say for example, you get a guy, Arturo Gatti. Arturo Gatti walked around at 160. He looked pretty good in regular street clothes. He fought at 135, right? People say, oh, he should fight at what he walks around at. I said, no, Arturo Gatti would get smashed at middleweight. Just because you weigh something doesn't mean that's your weight. You have to fight at a particular weight. And when these guys gain that weight, a lot of times it works in reverse. It doesn't make them stronger. It ultimately makes them weaker, because the bigger man is still bigger, still stronger, but he's naturally stronger as opposed to you taking protein powder.
Can we agree that we all knew Fury was going to execute this game plan of trying to pressure him, because that's what worked the first time as opposed to the second time when he moved from Wilder?
Well, yeah, the first fight with Ben Davidson, he was much more moving and now the second fight when he was the aggressor with Sugar Hill, and the third fight, much more effective, just jab, right hand, lean.
So we can agree that he was the one with jab, right hand, lean, jab, right hand, lean, right? He was going to come to do that. The only time Wilder knocked him down was when Fury was coming at him. That's when he knocked him down. Boom, he walked right into it. He made him come to him and he walked right into it. So technically, the way you would have solved the leaning process and all that was to not be there to be leaned on. That would have been the time to not be there. Not be there. No, I'm not going to let you lean on me. I'm going to roll under. I'm not going to be there for you to lean on me. Right, that would have been the way to approach it. That would have been how I would have approached it. And if we forget about the fact that they're two heavyweights, but let's say they were two welterweights. One was 6'2", the other one was 5'11", right? Let's make the difference in the height comparable. That guy at 5'11" would be slipping, being low, whoop, pop, making the tall guy reach for him, similar to the way the fight started out with Leonard and Hearns, where Hearns was the aggressor, but Leonard was the guy moving, staying away from the bigger man. After he hurt him, the roles changed, but the smaller guy would have been boxing, would have been being, I don't want to say careful, but being slick. That would have been, to me, the way to neutralize Fury, by allowing Fury to impose that mass on him, which is what his plan was. I think that hurt Wilder, and I don't think the bulk up was the answer for it.
Now, in the aftermath of this rivalry, that ended up being a heck of a rivalry when you look at the heavyweight division in the history. Entertaining, again, I don't think it's Frazier, Ali by any sense of the imagination when you look at technical skill. I don't even think it was George Foreman against Ron Lyle in terms of brute power and slugfest, but it was entertaining. And in the last few weeks, combined with Usyk Joshua, this is why people tune into boxing. This is why we put up with a lot of the stupidities and the bad fights and the craziness, for these type of events and these type of fights that deliver. Now, Joshua Usyk, gentleman from the get-go, gentleman at the end. Fury and Wilder, bad blood in the animosity leading up to the press conferences. We know about Fury calling Deontay Wilder a dosser all the time, Wilder accusing Fury of cheating. After the fight, Fury tries to go and embrace Wilder. Wilder kind of dismisses him, doesn't want to. Fury addresses it in the post-fight comments, saying that he didn't show any class. Now, Wilder made a statement today on Instagram about a week later after the fight, give or take, and expressing gratitude to Fury and creating a big rivalry, etc., etc. But Russ, what did you think of that when you saw or heard the comments between Fury and Wilder, that after that great rivalry, and Fury appears to have won fair and square this time, no glove controversy, no nothing, even if he had won fair and square previously, but no allegations from Wilder. Were you disappointed about Wilder's reaction?
Well, first of all, I'd like to cover the first part of what you said, because we had two heavyweight contests 2 weeks apart from each other that were so diametrically opposed, you know, in the way the fighters conducted themselves and in the quality of the skill level of what we saw. Someone put a thing in at after the Fury fight saying, best heavyweight fight since, and my immediate answer was, well, since last week when Joshua and Usyk fought each other, because that was a really, like, from a purist perspective, that was a great fight. Like, I mean, this is the undefeated cruiserweight champion of the world, undisputed, coming up and challenging a behemoth like Anthony Joshua in his hometown in front of 70,000 people. That was massive, like, to do what he did and to pick it up and in the 8th round, put the pedal to the metal and finish the last 4 rounds super strong to come onto it. I thought it was exciting. It did not have the drama that this fight had. And that, like I said, the reason that we had this drama, and everybody agrees that from a technical perspective, it was not the case, but the excitement and the anticipation of what could possibly happen if Wilder landed happened when that knockdown of Fury occurred. That's what made everything crazy. If that knockdown doesn't happen, if he suffers, if he knocks Wilder down in the 3rd, Wilder's hurt, keeps beating on him, Wilder throws desperation punches, nothing lands, keeps beating on him again, it would not have had the same impact. The only reason that it had this feel that everybody thought they've witnessed something so special, which it was special, of course, but was because of those 2 knockdowns of Fury in, what was it, the 4th round?
Yes, that's right, after being knocked down himself.
You know, so it's that's what made it great. That's what made it the fight. Now, as for the look, Scully can speak on this probably better than me. There is a certain validity to the fact that, you know, he is concussed in the corner. He just suffered a bad knockout. You know, he was knocked out for all intent and purposes. It wasn't a case of retirement. You know, he got knocked out. Was he concussed? Was he just in an emotional state? Like, when someone gets drunk, they'll sometimes say things that they would never say if they were sober. So is it possible that he was just in a state, you know, so disappointed, so dejected, concussed, that he said something that maybe he regrets? I don't know. You know, that's hard to say. But usually guys who have lost in the corner have always accepted defeat and accepted the congratulations and respect from the opponent. Scully?
I'll say that. I give an example. I always use this. A fighter, they should never interview a fighter right after a fight, because all he's doing is releasing at least 8 weeks of frustration and, you know, excitement and whatever. And I always use this example because I would never say these words at any other time. And you know me, so you'll understand. I fought a fight on TV one time and I won. I looked good. It was one of my better fights. I looked good. And Sean O'Grady interviewed me and he said, "What's next?" And I actually said, you know, I just want to do like Sugar Ray Leonard did. I want to get in, I want to get out. I want to make that big money and get out. And to this day, I have no idea, because I've never fought for money. I've always wanted to have a long, long career. I never wanted to get out of boxing. I never wanted to make money and get out of it. I have no idea why I said that. I don't have a clue why I said that. But it was 2 minutes after the fight was over and I had just won and I was really excited. And that's what came to my mind. I don't know why I said it.
well, you succeeded in having your wish. You didn't make any money. So you've done good. You're in boxing, and you set out what you accomplished to do was not make money. Very good. That's good. Yeah.
It's not bad. And I think, yeah, go ahead, Scully.
I got muted there for a second. The guy was calling me and it cut me off. I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said, well, you succeeded in your wish to not make money. I never got in it to make money. Success! I didn't make money.
Yeah. All right, so we have a few minutes here with Scully left before he's got to go. So let's look at the aftermath now of Fury and his father seemed to want the Usyk fight way before they won the mandatory challenge of the winner between Dillian White and Otto Wallin. Otto Wallin is somebody Fury already defeated, although it wasn't an easy fight for him. He had a cut and whatnot. But look, Usyk has the Joshua obligation next, with Joshua exercising his rematch clause. Russ, though, we're looking at it from this past weekend and being in Usyk's corner, was there anything that you saw, or maybe you don't want to say publicly, but is there
I'm saying it publicly.
Okay.
Don't worry.
People think Usyk, the popular opinion from the boxing forum and the people on social media that you love so much, they think Fury is much, much better and much bigger and much tougher for Usyk, and Usyk doesn't stand a chance. What say you?
I was about to agree with the first part of your sentence until you said doesn't stand a chance. And, obviously the same way, who was the favorite going into the Joshua fight?
Joshua.
Right. And he had to be. He was the bigger man fighting at home. He's the heavyweight champion. He's the guy, right? He's the guy. He has to be the favorite going in. Fury will also be the favorite going in as well. The style will even be problematic for Usyk. But if you think that the 6 inches in height difference and the what would be 50 pounds roughly difference in weight, maybe a little bit more, is going to be the factor in why Usyk wins or loses, you are sadly mistaken. If you don't think he's got a solution for those things, if you don't think that he's going to be able to do what he wants to, if you don't think he's got the speed, power, intelligence, everything related to boxing, the footwork, the southpaw advantage, all that stuff to make him a live, and I mean live dog, I'm going to be in the corner of the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. You watch.
Oh, well, now you have the Joshua rematch as well, which won't be easy. We agree, right?
Agreed, it won't be easy. But you know what? It's going to be more predictable, I think. I'll tell you why. When I say predictable, I don't think there's going to be any surprises for the rematch. Joshua came out and he wanted to see what he could do boxing-wise with Usyk. A lot of people after the fight say, what a ridiculous strategy that was. I don't agree that it was a ridiculous strategy. I don't care what people say. I think that was it might have been a cautious strategy. It wasn't hell-bent. Should he have maybe tried to change later in the fight? I think they committed to something and they stuck with it. And then he probably didn't have the juice to change or do something. But I think the rematch, I think he has to go balls to the wall on this, and he has to go all out and try to impose himself, roll the dice and see what comes up. Does he crap out? But at least we know he's gonna come. And Usyk is going to be ready for that. He will be ready for that. And this gets back to what we were saying earlier. Usyk didn't bulk up. Usyk came in at 220 for the fight. He didn't bulk up. He 20 pounds. I mean, that was just weight he normally made that's what he was normally weighed when he used to lose weight to come down.
He did look stronger than in the Chisora fight, though, probably with more time to set in the heavyweight division, longer training camp.
Of course.
Yeah. Scully, what do you think, though? Because obviously we have Russ here. It's tough to say. I mean, we understand Fury's the favorite, but did you look at that fight and are you excited to see Usyk Fury, that possibility for the undisputed heavyweight title?
Sure. I mean, anytime you have guys at that level, undefeated and, they're out there and they have to fight. It's a natural fight. They have to settle it. Usyk creates problems. Like, he's a stylistic problem for anyone just because of his demeanor, his mentality, even and fighters will understand this. Like, I saw a video of him. Russ, did you see the video of him dancing a couple of weeks before the fight? There's a video of him, and I didn't think it was him. I'm going, nah, he can't dance. He's got tremendous rhythm. He's got a way about him. He's got a movement about him that's perfect for a fighter of his style. And
100%.
So he creates a different kind of problem. He doesn't have, the concussive power that we're, like Wilder, but he creates probably more problems because of the style. And it would be a totally different approach for Tyson Fury. And they're different than anything he's faced in terms of the big fights with Wilder. So I think Usyk will be a very live underdog.
And what fighter, or I shouldn't say what fighter, that's probably not fair. One of the reasons why he's so great and why Lomachenko as well is so great is because they're southpaws. They're a nightmare for nobody exploits the southpaw advantage as well as they do. Every bit of an advantage they have a southpaw, they use every bit of it, everything. And it's a big difference. It's Scully, tell him it's a massive, massive difference when you can use that southpaw advantage.
I hate southpaws.
Outlaw southpaws.
Henry Maskey, when I fought Henry Maskey, he utilized his height and his style and his southpaw style. He knew he was difficult and he magnified it. Like he literally refused. A lot of them, like Michael Nunn, I had success with because Michael Nunn was similar, but Michael would dig in and he'd fight you. Like if you started talking trash, he'd fight. Whereas Henry didn't care what you said. He thought it was immature. Like he didn't care what you said. He just wanted to give you stylistic problems, and that was what he did. And Usyk and these guys are similar. They maximize their level of difficulty, and and it works.
Well, let Scully get some rest soon because he has to head over to Boston and for a fight. But when are you coming to Montreal, Scully? We're gonna see you soon here.
It looks like next week. I'll be there in the middle of next week.
Awesome. And Arthur Beterbiev, the unified light heavyweight champion, undefeated, perfect knockout streak, is fighting Marcus Browne, one of his mandatories, in December in Montreal. It'll be the first time we see Arthur fight in Montreal in several years, at least in the province of Quebec, in the country of Canada. You talked about southpaws. Marcus Browne is a southpaw. Does the southpaw style seem problematic for Arthur when you look at this fight on paper? We talked about it a few weeks ago when it was rumored. Now that it's official, what comes to mind first when you look at Marcus Browne as the opponent for Arthur?
I don't think he doesn't magnify the southpaw difficulty like other guys would. You know what I mean? So he won't be as much of an issue as some other southpaws like Henry Maskey. He wouldn't be that kind of, but he's I think he doesn't have the strongest chin, but he does let his hands go. He doesn't. It's almost like you see these guys, sometimes they don't know they don't have a great chin, so they let their hands go anyway. So he's always dangerous. So Arthur's going to have to be on his A game for this one.
Absolutely, I agree, and I right away you read my mind. His approach to the ring, to the square off this way. He's not looking to exploit that southpaw advantage as much as other fighters do, like Usyk or Lomachenko. And, and I think he's susceptible to getting hit. I keep thinking that Badu had that cut, which was the worst cut I've ever had to deal with, in my 96 stitches that cut took, that's ridiculous. And the doctor would come up and look at it, and I'm thinking, they're going to stop it. How did you not stop that fight? I don't understand. All you did was make me look bad. You can't stop a bleeding of 96 stitch cut. But anyways, Badu would hit him. Badu was landing, blinded by his own blood and lost a quart of blood in the fight, and he was hitting Marcus Browne. Jean Pascal landed 3 punches on Marcus Browne, was losing every round, and knocked him down 3 times.
Right.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hit like Arthur.
One thing is, I think there will be a good build up to the fight because Marcus Browne is known from the American audience, and he's also vocal on social media. And I think he'll say some things and he'll show confidence and maybe even be a bit more cocky in a sense than many of Arthur's past opponents who are kind of very mellow, nondescript. Vosdick was not somebody who was very vocal at all when they had their big fight. Neither was Adam Danes in a few months ago. So that's going to be interesting to see if Marcus Browne tries to get into the head of Arthur Beterbiev.
Let me say one thing. He will never get into the head of Arthur. If anything, he will awaken Arthur. Like if I was Marcus Browne's people, I would tell him, shh, be very quiet. Don't get this guy any more energized than he already is going to be. That would be my advice. That would be my advice.
Right. Well,
all right, go catch a flight.
Go enjoy some rest. Russ, we'll continue here to talk about your big UK fight from this past weekend. Take care, Scully. Always a pleasure.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
See you, Scully.
All right.
All right.
And Russ, so if we look at you back from the UK, of course, we knew about Joshua Usyk a few years ago. We have a few minutes to discuss, though, another massive fight in the UK between Liam Smith and Anthony Fowler this past weekend. Back and forth affair. Liam Smith, who's been through ups and downs in his career, is still a factor, still a player in the junior middleweight division. How did it feel from living it in the corner, Russ, this past weekend?
Right after the fight ended, Eddie Hearn was in the ring, and I walked up to Eddie and I said, Eddie, this felt like when I started my career in boxing in the late 70s and early 80s in Montreal, when local fights were bigger and more important than world championship fights. You know, it was more the vibe, and having these two kids from Liverpool, you know, in Fowler and Liam Smith, with the crowd there, you know, all supporting one side or the other. I think the crowd majority was in favor of Liam Smith, but still the rest, there were people there for Fowler as well, because he's from that city. They were there for those two guys. That's it. That electricity, I would say, wasn't even matched by what I felt 2 weeks prior at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where there was 70,000 people there to see Anthony Joshua. You know, it wasn't the same kind of a feeling as having the two local lads going at it. And I'll tell you what an exciting fight. I mean, first round, I'm sitting there getting my stuff ready. All of a sudden, Joe McNally, who's Liam Smith's trainer, said, Russ, he's cut. What do you mean he's cut? And I'm looking, and he's fighting like this. I'm looking, I said, I don't see anything. So I think it's the other side. You're going to have to go in. Okay, sure enough, he turns around, and the blood is coming down. First round. Boom.
Been busy of late, huh, with the cuts?
3 fighters in a row, 3 important fights, main event fights, back to back, who get cut, and 2 of them in the very first round. This doesn't happen. This is like a freak that this is happening, okay? So he gets cut, took care of it, gets hurt in the 3rd round. Arguably, we were probably down 3-1 after 4 rounds. You know, like Anthony Fowler was fighting and fighting hard. He wasn't just throwing 2-punch combinations and 3-punch combinations. He was throwing 4 or 5-punch combinations. Bam, 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 bam. You know, putting the extra shot on. I mean, it was quite remarkable how well he was fighting. And Liam just started putting the pressure, cutting the distance. And then he catches him with a short chopping right hand that deposit and hurt Fowler badly. Fowler then had to summon on his heart and used every bit of his energy that he had to work his way back into that fight. And you know what I noticed? Fowler is a product of the amateur system that has been evolving over the last 25 years with the computer scoring and the different ways of scoring amateur boxing, which is a lot of move, touch, move.
Although they're trying to change that, right, in recent years?
Yeah. He couldn't control Liam. The art of tying a guy up, working on the inside, grabbing, staying in the pocket to rest instead of relying always on movement. And when you're relying on movement all the time and the other guy's putting pressure on you all the time, you know, that makes you even more tired because he's not staying away. You know, having the art of being able to rest on the inside is a great skill that is lost in these days. You know, it's lost with fighters. So he expended Barry McGuigan. I talked to him after the fight because he's trained by Barry's son, Shane, said he expended a lot of energy trying to fight his way back and survive. And he did. And, you know, Joe and I were talking in the corner and he says, Russ, what do you see? I said, he's got to start finishing with, and I spoke to him today and we revisited that. He said, you know, we told him you have to start finishing with the left hook. You have to start throwing the left hook. He was looking for the right hand all the time because he had Fowler had a low left hand. And so they kept trying the right hand. I said, he's got to start throwing the left hook. And sure enough, the left hook landed, and they stopped the fight.
That's funny. You used to say that in the gym all the time. Like, it's something you would think that's not that difficult to come up with as a concept, but the left hook from an orthodox stance not only is a good offensive weapon, but it also protects you from the right hand coming back.
Of course it does. And, finishing with the left hand is so vitally important for a right-handed fighter. It was a great night. And for a couple of hours, it was the fight of the year.
until Fury Wilder
until Fury Wilder happened. So now it's probably going to be the British fight of the year. That's how exciting it was. So, it was high level, great skill set, a great fight. It was great to be part of it. The atmosphere was incredible. So I really, really enjoyed it, and working with the team and working with Liam, being a part of that and made to feel like you're part of the team and part of the success and part of the win is a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
And it's been a winning streak for you, which is, will definitely you'll get to enjoy. And despite the pandemic circumstances, you had a heck of a lot of atmospheres in 2021 on your travel. You think about Belfast, which you said was probably the craziest you've ever been to. You had the Loma fight. You had these ones now in the UK. Like, it turned out to be a heck of a year for the atmospheres and the crowds, and why boxing in the last few months, after surviving the pandemic, in a sense that the fights weren't happening, some of the fights weren't very good. We had a few freak shows involved in the meantime, but I think it's a little bit back on the right path, and we have a heck of a lot of good fights to look forward to between now and the end of the year as well.
Matt, do me a favor. You've heard the saying that sometimes when you're too deep in the forest, you can't see the trees, right?
100%.
As I get on in years, and the amount of traveling that I do for you I love being in Belfast, and I forgot now. I just forgot until you reminded me. You're going to have to remind me of these outstanding moments that I live, because they go into the memory bank, and the damn hard drive is full. You know what I mean? So sometimes I have to be reminded of this. So when I write the book, and I'm in the process of doing it, when I write the book, you're going to have to remind me of these events and how much I love them and how much they meant to me to be a part of them and to be part of the teams like Conlon, like Smith, like Usyk, like Loma. Being involved in the Usyk Joshua fight, I'm good from every perspective. How am I ever going to top that? However, am I ever going to top being in the corner of the heavyweight championship of the world fight with the challenger, come out with the win in front of 70,000 people, in which both contestants wore my gloves, and I had to deal with a cut that I fixed, which my fighter was so happy that I was able to fix. How can I top that? How can I top that night?
Maybe if he beats Tyson Fury in 2022, you never know. It'll be interesting to see. That's for sure. Russ, final thought, the question this evening is, what's your schedule like these next few weeks here? What can we look forward to?
Next thing on the agenda is rising middleweight contender Janibek Alimkhanuly, who will be a great guy. I love Janibek, trained by Buddy McGirt. I love working with Buddy. That'll be November 5th in Las Vegas. November 19th, we're looking at New Hampshire for Jessica Camara. Ian McKillop asked me if I would go down and do hands and cuts for Jessica. It would be my pleasure to do so. And December 11th, Madison Square Garden.
So you're gonna have December 11th, and then December 17th is Arthur Beterbiev in Montreal. And we're gonna have at one point
no air miles for that one, unfortunately.
No, that's for sure. And definitely look forward to being able to discuss all of these events with you in the weeks to come. Thank you everyone for tuning in to another edition of the Calling Russ Anber podcast. And go ahead, Mr. Anber, before I let you go.
I just want to say that this last 3 weeks in the UK came across a lot of people, 4 cities in 3 weeks. I just want to say how much I appreciated all the time I spent there, the people I spent time with, old friends that I got to see again, my friends in Manchester at the snooker club, my new friends in London at the Upton Park Snooker Club, all these people, and the fight fans, the people who love boxing, who wanted to talk boxing, people from the commission, the inspectors, the teams, you know, from Usyk's team, Callum Smith's team, Liam Smith's team, all the guys, you know, that I got to spend time with. And of course, Neil and Julia at Rival, where I got to spend some time at the office there. These are memories to last a lifetime. And, you know, you say thank you to everybody, but I just wanted to say thank you now for having 3 wonderful weeks there. And I'll always come back.
It's awesome. And in Montreal right now, you can still wear shorts, Russ. It's still warm enough for you to wear shorts probably into December.
Oh, man, and I shall.
All right. All right. Well, have a good evening there, everyone. And thank you once again. And we'll talk next week.
Thanks, Matt.
Here.